What's up, guys? Just wanted to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Aptos. We'll hear more about how Bitcoin DeFi and Aptos is heating up later today, but for now, let's get into the episode.
If you care about what's actually happening on chain, subscribe to the 0x Research newsletter. Our team at Blockworks Research sends a daily brief with analyst insights, data driven breakdowns, and sharp opinions on what's happening on chain, built by people who live in the arena. Subscribe at the link in the description today.
Nothing said on 0x Research is a recommendation to buy or sell securities or tokens. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and any views expressed by anyone on the show are solely our opinions, not financial advice. Boccaccio, Ryan, and our guests may hold positions in the companies, funds, or projects discussed.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to another Friday live stream 0x Research. I'm joined by my lovely, wonderful co-host, Salve Boccaccio. How you doing today, Bach?
Good. How are you doing? Can you hear me? I had a bit of technical difficulties earlier today.
Yeah,
I
I
might
can
be
hear
very
you.
warm.
We were working through it, but we figured it out.
All right, very good. I'm good. I sent Jack an angry letter because he tried to steal our spot, but we're gonna move past it. I'm calming down, relaxing, no crashing out. It's gonna be good. It's a good day. What about you? How are you feeling?
Feeling good. There's some news today that we can talk about. I think I don't know. Generally feeling pretty okay on crypto. I mean, maybe let's talk about it. Let's talk about the markets, because I think this has been a topic that I've seen is you've got people crashing out about, volatility in crypto. Meanwhile, like stocks and other things are just like continuing to go vertical. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on it? Are you doing anything differently these days, or kind of business as usual? Because I'm seeing,
Um,
seeing some crypto
this,
crash outs and people going, "Hey, I'm going full equities now." What do you
yeah,
think
I
about that?
saw that. That was so funny. I I mean, look, the crypto skill set is very, very different to the equity skill set, right? As well as like the commodity skill set. Like, I don't know how you could ever go from trading crypto to trading whatever metals. And I don't know how you can go from crypto to trading equities. I'm sure there are people who can do it and who can do it very, very well. I think crypto is one of those markets that is quite niche, and there are certain things that I think only happen within crypto. Um, so I'm not like, I know exactly what tweet you're referring to. I wish him the best of luck with his equities investments. I just think like if you've been born and bred within crypto, you really want to not fully transition away from it, maybe immediately. I don't know how to say it without being like kind of a dick about it, but I don't know. I think it's a very different skill set. I wish him the best of luck. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know. What do you like? Think of it this way: when you're investing in a cryptocurrency, you are. I mean, you do both, I guess. Like you also invest in equities, but would you say you have any edge in equities? Would you say you have any edge in crypto first of all, and then let's do equities?
Um, Probably a no on the equity side. I guess what I would say personally about them is that you can you can move very differently in the equities world. I think there's a lot less need to kind of like constantly be scraping, telegrams and deck screener, type of actions. I think you can really like buy things and forget about them and just hang out in the equities world. Like buy, classical advice, like you can just buy like good businesses that are growing and sort of just forget about them and let them do their thing. Whereas like
Yeah,
trading in crypto is more of like, okay, if you're running the narratives, then you can't just buy like the hot new thing and then forget about it for a year. It doesn't really work like that. So, but I do
yeah.
think if you're going to try to like bring that same strategy over, then yeah, I don't know, maybe yeah, you do get burned a little bit, because I don't think you get rewarded for the same behavior models in the sort of trad equities world as you do in crypto per se.
No, I definitely don't think so. I think you would struggle quite a bit. I do think that you can come from equities and then do well in crypto, though. But also not as well as somebody who I think has always been in crypto and understands the market a lot better than other people.
Yeah.
than somebody
I,
traditionally in equity.
there's different like kind of areas, right? I guess if you're gonna go from trading illiquid shitcoins and then like gamble on Beyond Meat or something, um, and like Reddit Wall Street Bet type plays, maybe it's kind of the same thing, and maybe you'll like get rinsed pretty frequently and hit a 10 bagger every once in a while. But yeah, broadly, I think it probably takes generally like pretty different approaches.
Do you trade perps?
No.
Like, no? Do you do options?
Yeah, I do use options,
Why
but
don't you
generally like
do?
longer dated.
Yeah, if you got equity if you got equity perps, would you trade equity perps,
No,
or
probably
do you
not.
just not want equities at all? No, do you don't want perps at all? Because this is very interesting because this is like a whole thing now. It's like perpification, which is I think makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Equity perps to me like logically make a lot. I mean, I think perps are the superior product to options. Um, and a lot of people have spoken about this, and like famously Jeff went on TBPN last week and talked about it. But I was just curious, like from your point of view, because like I trade perps very rarely, but I don't think I've ever bought an option or I've
Hmm.
ever traded options.
Yeah, I think probably for the gambling itch, I would
Perps.
agree that perps are a better degen product, and like turning on the 100x leverage slider is just like an easier thing. But I guess what I would say personally is, I mean, I'm never going to trade like that. And like to me, typically, like if I'm looking at an option, I might be looking at like leaps or like 1 year out or 6 months out type contracts, to where like I don't want to be worried about if the price goes up or down 10% in the next week. I only care about the longer term move, and like perps are, I think, are not like the product to trade if that's the position you're trying to take, because you could get liquidated, next month, even though you think it's going to go, 5x over the next 2 years. But for people who want to gamble like on the 1 month, time
Perps.
frame, then sure, or like the 1 week or the 1 day, then yeah. I mean, I think it makes sense on the shorter term, like kind of crypto gambly aspect for sure. And probably for people who, in the trad world, like the 0DTE options crowd, I'm sure some of those people will love, turning up the leverage slider and going crazy on SPY longs or whatever
For sure. I mean, the
intraday.
reason I'm bringing it up is because like we've seen some. I think a lot of traditional um, players are moving into perps. Like Robinhood launched perps in Europe, right? And then we're seeing a lot of crypto move into equities through perps as well. So there's like a lot of coalescing around this one product, which is equity perps. And we've all now recognized that it's like the best way to speculate on it. It's not a great way to hedge. Like if you're an actual business and you wanted to hedge, like how farmers hedge their stuff, then it like probably doesn't make any sense. Like you should probably still use futures or options, but I don't think. I think like for I guess not your purposes, but like my purposes, where I like I think that an event is going to lead to significant movement towards up or down, then perps are the way to go. I don't think I would ever want to deal with options, and I think the broad majority of the world would also like the 0 day options crowd. I imagine they would also go towards perps. It's so much easier. Do you like how do you even price like for them it's like a lot easier to just see the price go up or down versus like try and figure out how to price these things, although I'm not sure if they are trying to worry about how to price things.
Yeah, I mean, what I think is funny is that both perps and options are actually like quite complex. Like it's not as simple as like I think it's going to go up, therefore I buy calls or I get long and then I make money. You know, if you don't understand funding rate and you don't and you don't understand like implied volatility, um, in options, it's like you can be right in your head that like, oh, I thought this was going to go up, so I bought a call. But like if that move is already priced in and you're overpaying for the option, then you may make no money or you might lose money. And in perps, if you don't understand funding rates, then maybe you pay all the funding
Yeah.
away in the game that you would have made. So it's like, but I think on the shorter term time frame, you're probably right in that. I think like the simplicity of a perp probably makes it more attractive for just the raw degen, like long
Yeah.
short
To,
aspect
to be
versus having
fair,
to
if
sift
you're
through the or like the option baskets.
yeah, to be fair, if you're paying that much in funding, you should just pay it any. Like you haven't looked at it at all. But I guess you can make the same argument about options, like not
What are you
knowing how to
saying?
price. Like the option, the funding rate that you meant, like you can never hedge a position using like one thing that a lot of people say is like, oh, like these VCs are hedging their bags through perps, and it's like that's a horrible way to do anything. Like you can't vest something over 4 years using. You can't hedge your vesting that's like 4 years using perps. You would lose a lot of money due to funding intervally, and also it's like it's not a good way to like it's not an efficient way to hedge things. It's not. Um, it's very capital inefficient, right? Like if you're trying to match whatever exposure you have in spot, let's say it's like $1 million, then either you're taking on like massive risk by hedging it by like levering it up, or you're putting on a short that's like that size. It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. Um, we have relatively big day today. I think Christoph and Fijao. How do you, I guess Felix? We can say his
Felix,
government name.
Fejao. Yeah, I don't know.
Fijao.
People say, I
Um,
don't know if people say Fejao out loud. Probably say
I say
Felix.
a lot. I always call Fijao.
Fejao.
We're gonna have them on in 10 minutes. Before we get into that, though, what are your market thoughts? What are you interested in this week? What have you been looking at?
I feel like there's a lot of ideas floating around. Something I'm generally excited on, like broadly, is kind of the ICM
Return?
theme. Like MetaDAO is interesting. I'm not exposed to MetaDAO, but like they've had a pretty strong run up. But I think the idea there is more interesting in terms of having some kind of more protections for token holders and like getting rid of that dual equity token model. I think that addresses a lot of like issues that we have with a ton of tokens in teams in the space still. So I think what I broadly like about the ICM kind of idea is just seeing that continued push towards, okay, you have something being built, a product, a platform, whatever protocol. They associate it with a token. You get rid of the equity conflict. You give token holders upside in the potential of that thing. So any steps that further that kind of design philosophy are good in my opinion. So I'm excited to see
Can I,
more of it there. Go
yeah.
ahead.
Anything else? Or can I make a? Can I like? This is my thing of V2 is better than V1. I know we mock it a lot, but this is literally a case of it. Like we had dog shit ICM stuff. Believe famously, which never launched any form of like flywheel, which they promised. And then now we're seeing like more and more serious capital formation platforms take off. This is also the first instance I've seen Noah be from Faya Capital be positive about something in crypto. Typically, he's very
Yeah.
upset with everything, but this one he fucking loves, which makes sense given that it's gone up and they're exposed to it. But yeah, like I think they've done a great job. I mean, we had them on a few weeks back. They're also launching an AMM product, which I think might be the reason that this move is also happening a little bit. Lots of attention towards them as well. Famously, the DBA and who was the other guys? I can't remember the other guys, but they made a bid for it. The OTC, like 40% lower than what the price was. People got upset about it. And then there was another sale. Six Man Ventures got exposure. A lot of updates for them over the past few weeks. And they've been doing pretty well. Another one is Or lined. I'm Or lined officially. They implemented some Gamba casino mechanic. It's done particularly well. Ian Unsworth, shout out, friend of the pod, has consistently messaged about it and said, look at the revenue, look at the revenue. And they've actually made quite a bit. If you annualize the last like 3 hours, it's a
Yeah, we
lot
love
of money.
annualizing
Yeah.
discrete short
I
time
don't know
periods.
how long it'll last, but it has done relatively well. Another big one, this one's relevant to you. I don't know if you ever shilled Padre on the pod, but you shilled it definitely very privately. And you were very directionally correct. Pump Fund acquired a terminal called Padre. I don't know if the listeners are familiar with it, but it's a on-chain. Danny, you can give a better intro than this, but I'm just going to say, like, it's an on-chain trading terminal, kind of like an Axiom competitor. I don't think it's particularly good, but I also think it's like an actual working product, right?
Yeah, I think I guess I talked about it internally, considered writing about Padre a few months back in the summer. Part of the idea was like looking for, kind of low priced trading apps with tokens, maybe a pump acquisition, but also like maybe an Axiom kind of beta play, since Axiom doesn't have a token. Decided against it because I wasn't super bullish about the transparency and shipping speed of the team. The acquisition here is interesting, but the token is down from when I looked at it. So I made the right call. Was right in both senses. Was right that maybe an acquisition for Pump was in the tables or in the cards at some point, but also right that the token necessarily wasn't. Because I think here the problem is, and this is maybe again like back kind of ties into the ICM thing, but Pump acquires Padre. I think the token just dies for Padre, the platform. Like there's no like legal claim or anything to like a value in this acquisition. So I think it's kind of just like a sad burger for anybody who was gambling on that token. It spiked on the announcement and then sold off. So
Yeah.
I think people are realizing like, okay, this falls under Pump now as part of the Pump token. So you don't really get anything if you're a Padre bull per se.
No.
But I think this is something we've been talking about, right? Pump, like I think Pump should have bought a trading bot or acquired somebody months ago. I think this has been like a long time coming, and honestly, maybe a little disappointed in like the speed of their execution here. Like they bought KOL Scan first, back when they like did their raise, and it was kind of like, okay,
yeah, they made a big deal out of it as well. Like, today we're buying KOL Scans, like
cool.
it's like a vibe. It looks kind of like a vibe coder project. It is interesting that they're building out this like kind of product suite. Another thing here is, I mean, Ryan Connor very concerned historically about this idea of Pump losing its edge to the front end, and because the front end has a moat and Pump does not, it's just a back end. And what Axiom could technically do is launch their own token launching mechanism because it owns the user, and people want to trade it through that. We're kind of seeing this a little bit. I would say Axiom integrated BNB stuff, and on the other hand, Pump is also like going against it, buying up Padre and stuff. So we'll see how this goes. I don't want to hold too much with our market thoughts. We have 2 people now waiting officially. I need James to put on an avatar, but I'll add Felix in first. Hello, Felix. Are you well?
What's up, guys?
How you doing?
I'm good. Good. Got over my jet lag from DAS after a fun week. Yeah. How are you guys?
Doing great. Glad to have you on. I think I'm gonna want to get your thoughts on. I saw you were tweeting about Trump's response to some Canada like nothingness.
Dude,
turning it
friendship
into a
ended
big
with Canada
thing.
again because
Yeah.
there's an ad he didn't like or something. So that's how things are going over here in the Great White North.
It's funny, you guys. You have to deal with all these spats, but you can invest in all these crypto ICOs with no lockup.
That's how I hedge the deterioration of my nation, is by just buying scams, and then you're delta neutral.
Surely it's not that. It's kind of. I'm coming in. I shouldn't be saying this out live on a podcast, but I will be there within the next year. Not where you are, but further east. So
no, it's fine. Like, there's a real estate Ponzi, as most people know, and I don't know. The government's throwing a lot of money to try and offset the lack of exports to the U.S. But I think like under the surface, things are changing pretty meaningfully. But it takes time. But I mean, day in day out, I still went to Tim Hortons this morning. That still exists.
Ooh.
So
Timmy's.
Still watching the Oilers win at hockey games. So the sun keeps shining.
I feel like on the real estate thing too, it's like you can look at most, large countries these days and say, that, they've got a real estate pricing. People complain about Australia and New Zealand and the U.S. even.
Yeah, I saw
Australia
this
and Canada,
video.
I think, are the worst.
I saw this video in Australia, and it's like maybe like 150 people waiting to view an open house. I was like, God, I would puke if I had to do this.
Yeah, it's terrible.
We also have.
Hello, guys.
Let's stop ignoring him because I made him wait in the waiting room for too long. Hey, James, are you well?
I am doing well. How's it going, guys?
Great.
Pretty
Always
good,
glad to
yeah.
have the massive podcast guy on the show.
Massive podcast guy. Fucking love it.
I think the real estate stuff is actually kind of interesting because it's been one of those things where like people continually just like doom post real estate charts and say that everything is going to collapse. But like if you think about it for more than 5 seconds, you realize like there's just unbelievable structural issues behind the scenes that it's entirely possible that like prices will just go up forever. Not saying it's a good thing, but people just keep imagining that there's going to be some like 2007 doom loop that property prices crash 50%. And I'd be curious. I mean, I don't know if you guys want to go into it too much, but like it is an interesting thing. I'm sure Felix has some pretty interesting macro takes on it, but I think it's just like a very structural ingrained issue in our society now.
Yeah, I mean, what happened is that like most people's retirement plans are basically their house equity and like taking out equity loans based on it. So like, yeah, here in Canada, like, people that are moving towards retirement or on the verge of it, their retirement plan is their house. And maybe they'll sell that house and downsize, or maybe they'll pass it on to their kids or something. But yeah, you can't just let that unwind. Like if you have a 50% decrease in housing prices, like, buy golden ammo type thing.
Yeah, and I think another thing it's interesting too, like I kind of was always pessimistic on this, that I like the work from home thing would go away pretty quickly for like megacorps in the United States. And I think most people have been kind of proven right on that, with most like high skilled white collar workers are coming back to the office, like even in the tech space, like 4 to 5 days a week. So like the deflationary aspect of people moving to like the Midwest and that kind of stuff just kind of didn't really happen. And now like, your Northeast and then West Coast cities just like continue to remain super well bid.
But don't also like all of funds and institutions and governments have massive exposure into like these development companies for commercial real estate, that it like wouldn't make any sense for them to let that die out. I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm not a big real estate.
It's protected. Yeah, it's protected on that side. But I'm not even talking about like people like institutional people not letting things fail. I just mean like the pure demand side. Like people still want to live in these places, right? Like the demise of like New York City as a place to live was highly exaggerated, right? And people still want to come here and people still want to live here for the social aspects.
Well,
Yeah.
let's
I think
see, though, because I know multiple people leaving New York now because of the upcoming election, out of fear.
Because of communism.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a meme. Like it's like I get it to a degree, but like that's one of those like show me, don't tell me type of thing. Like for your rich hedge funder in New York, like I don't know, whatever. Maybe you'll move to Greenwich. I don't know if that's really something that's going to happen. And also like very like inside baseball stuff. Like there's only so much that the mayor of New York City can actually do, right? Like at the end of the day, he's a mayor and he's beholden to like state laws. Like he doesn't have the ability to just like dramatically change the taxation regime of the city overnight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna agree with James here. I mean, you might have different areas that are experiencing population growth booms now. Texas and Colorado and some different places like that. Maybe there's some people who are opting to go to like these newer, maybe slightly less costly locations rather than moving to like LA or SF or NYC. But like by and by, I think the demand, like James said, I think the demand for those places remains high, despite the fact that like, I mean, I live out in the boonies. Like anybody that's trying to like compete for space in NYC could come here and live comfortably, quite easily in the Midwest. It's just they don't want to. You know, they want to live in a big city, somewhere that is coveted by a lot of people.
I'd be
So,
curious, Felix, on your side, like what's the like on the flip side from like the demand side in the United States,
Mhm.
I think places like Canada and Australia specifically have like basically committed regulatory seppuku by allowing foreigners to just dump all of their dirty cash in the country in the form of real estate. Like, do you see that on the ground at all with Canadians? Like, is there a groundswell of people ultimately getting fed up and pissed off about this kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, there's like yeah, foreign holder taxes now. Like I live near Vancouver, and that's kind of ground zero for that. Where yeah, there's just been a ton of capital that just flies into there, and then they just park it basically. Like nobody even lives in the houses. It's just a way to basically get money out of more capital controlled nations. And but yeah, people are super fed up. Like it's pretty insane, right? Like you go through these cities, and you either have these shoebox condos where there's a ton of people living in that are built terribly, or you have all these detached homes that just sit empty that are just basically capital sinks effectively. And yeah, it's really bad for society. I don't know, maybe blockchain can fix that. Maybe crypto solves this somehow.
What's
Oh
their
yeah,
logic
but
though for like what's their logic for allowing like allowing it and saying, okay, we're gonna put a slight tax on it versus like just saying no, this is not allowed. And if you're a Chinese national taking like your dirty CCP money, like it doesn't matter what level of tax you're gonna put on it.
Yeah,
They're like trying to get their money out of the country. They're going to do it.
yeah. So I
well,
think they started with a hold. Like you can't. I think they had like a pause for 2 years or something where there was none. Like foreigners couldn't buy. But I think now it's just moving towards a tax or something. I don't know. Fuck,
they
what do you-
also
what
make
do you-
you they also make you do like someone has to live in it that's in your family, right? Or else they tax you. But you can get around all of these relatively easily, or like you have to rent
Yeah.
it out or something. It's not. I I think they should probably ban people. I don't know. That's also a difficult thing though, no? Because if you're an Anglo country, you have this whole thing of like property rights, so you can't just be like, oh, you can't buy this, and I won't let you
Yeah.
and you can't take it out of people's hands. Versus like in other countries, I assume in Asia they're not as strict about all of this.
is this like a locality thing, Felix? Like, I could imagine that the tax revenues might be quite meaningful, especially if maybe they're struggling to increase taxes in other ways.
Yeah.
So, like,
That's actually a huge one for like smaller towns, I've heard too, where now that housing prices aren't up only, like these municipal governments aren't getting as much tax revenue from that, from either the selling of the houses. They still get property taxes, but I've heard a lot of anecdotal stories where yeah, municipal governments are struggling pretty hard because they spent too much in COVID, and then you have this combination of just like a lack of tax revenue. There's a lot of pain right there. I didn't think we'd be talking about the intricacies of municipal housing property taxes.
That's 0x research. I was actually just gonna try and segue away because I don't know if we noticed, but Felix tried to do it by bringing up the blockchain thing, but we didn't let him. We said let's talk more.
Yeah, I was in host mode.
Yeah, thank you, Felix. What are you? I guess like James and Felix, we were just talking about MegaETH. I don't know. Are you guys interested in it? Are you guys gonna do that thing or no? Like the ICO?
Yeah, I love MegaETH. Yeah, I have one of the Fluffle NFT things, so I have exposure from that. Hoping to get more. I don't know. I mean, I'm Canadian, so I don't have the 1-year lockup that some people have. So yeah, for me, it seems like a layup. It's just about how much you can get from it. But I don't know. I mean, I think I'm sure you guys can speak better to the tech, but see a lot of really interesting dApps that are going to be built or about to launch or being built on MegaETH right now. And that seems pretty interesting to me. Like it's always interesting to see where the devs are moving to build and where these projects are launching. And it seems like there's a lot of stuff coming up for MegaETH.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it too. I think it's very smart. Just like piggybacking off of Plasma, obviously, it's just smart from a community move. I think they know that they're gonna leave money on the table, but just gets people more engaged. So yeah, I definitely plan to allocate to the extent that I can.
I don't
in a
know if it is.
hypothetical world, I'm just gonna ask a question. In a hypothetical world where there is a lockup, do you still allocate or no?
Not at this price.
Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
buying one bill and then you get like a 10% discount, which is kind of not really anything for. I don't know. I wouldn't lock up for a year for 10% discount, but maybe I'm just funding myself out of allocation because Bread Guy's listening or something.
No, James, to your point, like about the money thing, I think this is actually a good solution because they're clear. Like, I don't think they're not airdropping, right? Or at least I didn't see anything about airdrops, and I think that makes sense. Like, you can reduce your airdrop amount, like the amount of tokens that you're giving out, by like letting people buy in at prices that have typically been reserved for VCs and private investors. Like 1 bill is, I mean, it's a bit hefty, but it's also not like horribly priced if it's unlocked fully at launch. So I think that's a good.
No, I'm sure it
That's a
trades for
good.
like 5-6 bill or something like that on day one.
Yeah,
day
I
two.
mean on Hype it's 5 bill right now.
Yeah, why
I
not?
think I can check again, but.
What do you guys think about what came out this morning about the KPI based tokenomics? I thought that was really interesting instead of just like time based.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's just like you're never gonna get the teams that should be doing it actually do it, and you're gonna get like really like teams that probably don't need to do it, like the MegaETH guys. They're gonna be the ones doing it. Like you're never gonna get I don't know what's like a scammy team, Mantra to do this thing, but like the good guys will probably end up doing it. It's the same. But I think it's interesting. It depends on how they design the KPIs as well. Like they could make it ridiculously low, obviously, or they could not share the KPI. Like they could say, oh,
Yeah,
if we get 100 transactions a day,
I was
we
gonna
hit
say,
our.
how detailed are they?
I don't know. I haven't seen. We're gonna have Namik on from MegaETH in like 45 minutes, and I'll ask him then. We'll grill him about
Like
it.
my initial
We'll
thought would be like it's actually kind of cool. It's a neat new idea, but I hope that they're not too granular on like what the KPIs are, because then obviously you're just gonna have teams solve to like meet the KPIs at the detriment of like the project actually working.
There's no complete specifics out yet. They gave some potential growth angles to use, like ecosystem growth, tech performance, decentralization. So I guess we'll see. Maybe you align some of that to like, it could be TVL, it could be number of nodes, you know.
I think
We'll
it's
see.
a good step in the right direction of where token supply emissions should go in the future. Like I still think it's really insane to me when you compare these tokenomics versus just like traditional equity, where you might have some sort of agreement there where you can issue up to say 1 billion shares, but it's not like you're going to decide, okay, I'm gonna linearly do this for the next 4 years, and then at the end point that'll be it, and then that's going to be the hard cap forever. Like that, just if we're going to move in the direction of tokens having more equity rights, it doesn't make sense to me to have this like super static linear supply function for tokens. Like it should be dynamic. Like if there's interesting growth opportunities, they should be able to increase their token supply, and if it makes more sense to do buybacks, they should do that. Like it should just be more dynamic.
Yeah, this is something that John Sharps and Hasu, I think they posted about it for Hyperliquid. They said burn the rest of the tokens, like whatever it is, 55%, and just issue tokens when you need it instead of having this schedule of unlocks. This is like, we adopted this from Bitcoin, right? Like the max cap thing from Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's a very unique asset. Like it needs a max cap. Whether it will have a max cap forever or not is like a discussion that a lot of people will have with each other. And I don't know if it will. Like Daniel Smith is very clearly in the camp that it can't sustain having a max cap forever, and eventually they'll have to inflate to pay miners. I'm sure there's other people who very strongly disagree with that because that kind of ruins the purpose of it. But I agree with you. Like it doesn't make any sense. But in general, like I think the entire inflation thing, emissions thing, is already very like obfuscated. We don't have a proper token unlock schedule like website. Like there's no filings for it. You can't really find. And sometimes we deal with these data points with these like L1s, because like a large part of Blockworks is building out dashboards, and you want to build out dashboards for emissions when the large unlocks are, et cetera, et cetera. And they'll post something on their Medium or on their like blog, and it won't be what you see like happens on chain. Like on chain, you can clearly see like the unlock happened on the 28th, and like in their docs, it's like, oh, the unlock's gonna happen on the 8th of the next month, and it just doesn't add up. So this is like a lot of these things I think need to come into place, and I think the way that it comes into place is, God forgive me, MetaDAO, Sonar, things like this that like make this a more streamlined process to launch these tokens, or like I guess like allocate this capital and form it and allow investors in. And I think like eventually through that we'll get more and more data, and then maybe we'll realize we don't actually have to put on like max caps. We can just like issue it through these platforms. I think that's the end game, and I think all of these like MetaDAO on the decentralized side, I think Echo is such a great product. I think like that on the TradFi side, like the more institutional side, that stuff has been like the best thing that launched the past 2 years, apart from like, I don't know, Hyperliquid, et cetera. I have to have it to my Hyperliquid things, but like Echo is. I mean, James, you were very positive about a crypto product this morning, and it was
Yeah.
Echo.
The rare one. It's
That's huge. Yeah.
It's rejuvenating. No, I think Echo's great. Like it's like the amount of deals that I've seen on it that are like actually genuinely good and is super refreshing is one thing. And then two, like I hate the word community, but there's a lot of VCs that are actually putting good deals on Echo for like, it's not a tremendous amount of money, but they're giving like whatever 4 million to their group. And these are like obviously good deals that they would typically just eat up the capacity for themselves. So I actually, from my own personal experience, really disagree with the idea of like adverse selection on Echo. Like, sure, there's some crap that you see, but like you're going to see that with anything. I've been like really, really surprised to the upside with how good the deals have been there.
I mean,
Is
it's
this a raw
better than
product?
alternative. Like, I've just had to know it because, like, the whole issue of the past 4 years is that based on what Gary Gensler was doing and everything, we had the full extreme on one side of the ICO craze back in the day, and then like the past 4 years has been the other extreme where it's just like the only people that see upside are, just registered investors or VCs basically, and they capture that whole interim until public launch, and there's been nothing in the middle. And so I think it's like it's for sure a great thing to have Sonar, Echo, and just these different iterations on like the middle portion of the capital raising process that's been missing for so long.
Yeah, you think of it, it's also kind of like it's curated in a way, right? And you get the brand of Kobe behind it, who's objectively probably like the best actor in the crypto space. Like you're not going to, why is Pakacia throwing his hands up? Because I didn't mention Jeff at Hyperliquid. Okay, he's number 2 behind Jeff.
Me, man, it's me.
It's not you.
But like it's not slop that you're seeing, right? Like it's not like you're just going on. I'm not going to name any other competitors, but like any dog shit raise, it's going to be on there. Like for the most part, you're seeing at least defensible stuff.
Is there a risk though that now that Coinbase is buying it, we're just going to get like slop tokens on base or something?
Oh, they're gonna destroy it. Yeah, it's gonna they're gonna fucking ruin it, right? Like Coinbase sucks. They're gonna ruin it. They're gonna take the beautiful baby and kill it. Yeah, 100%. It's over.
I'm hoping Kobe still stays relatively involved, which to me it seems like he will. That he doesn't allow it to happen.
There's probably like an earn-out agreement or something where he's involved for like 2 years and then
just please keep fucking Jesse Pollock as far away from that that protocol as possible. Don't let his hands anywhere fucking near it.
I'm not that worried about Jesse Pollock. My big thing is like they have so much KYC data now for people, and it's like Coinbase has historically been a little shaky with KYC data.
Yeah, I still get called every day by Coinbase data leaks. Like,
yeah. So like that would be my main worry. But yeah, I think they're probably gonna mess it up a little bit. One thing is, I saw this. Who's pod? One of the pods. I need to be careful.
You just got rugged by
What,
the cyber
what'd you
world.
say?
They didn't
Yeah,
want
I
you
didn't hear
to
you.
call that out.
Yeah.
There was some divine intervention there, I think.
Repeat what you said, Bach.
Did you not hear me?
No,
No,
you
you
need to
glitched
repeat
out.
what you said.
You're good now, though.
Rob Haddock from Dragonfly made a post about how there's adverse selection in Echo sales. Right? Whose pod did he say that on? James, is that
was
what
the
you were
Empire one.
referring to?
Yeah, that's just
He was
what
on
I'm reacting
Empire.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of ours. I think that's probably not a very useful comment because obviously in venture capital there is a lot of the deals will not go very well. So that's my
Yeah,
very
Well,
and I
general.
think
I don't
it's
know.
also
obvious, like by definition, it's a tautology. Like the further away you go from like seed, like you're best friends with everyone in this tight knit ecosystem. Like yes, of course, there's going to be adverse selection. Like the closer you are to the source, the better. Fine, I get that. But like if we're being logically consistent to the ethos of crypto, like this is just opening things up. Like no one's putting a gun to your head and saying you need to allocate this stuff on Echo. Like I'd rather have
Yeah.
the option and not do it.
I mean,
Yeah.
we live in an industry where you can have like building blocks, right? Like somebody can just come in with a different version of Echo. I don't see why they can do that. Like, and we'll have a good test piece here now that, like Coinbase owns it. Will that change? And if the market wants competition or a different iteration of it, that'll emerge. I mean, I'm sure there's people working on that. I think there's like Legion, which is sort of similar in some ways, but
Yeah.
yeah, competition will emerge if it's seen as being adverse in selection. If we're just seeing only base tokens being launched on it, like the market will shift.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Also,
mean,
it's dependent
naturally,
on what.
if your business is as a VC and you're not invested in Echo and this product takes off, then maybe it's eating into some of the deals at better better pricing that you could have had if it didn't exist. So, I mean, it's not surprising that a VC is upset about a platform that gives people access to VC like deals.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, another thing here is it's all based on what groups you're in, like the Echo deals that you get, except for the Sonar ones, which is like public. And I don't know, like also the first like few opportunities that you get into private markets is always shit anyway. Like I don't think if you first get access to a deal, it's always going to be bad now because you don't have any way to judge how things will work. Like I don't know what the first seed that you guys did, or the first like Series A or whatever investment that you did. Surely you lost money on it, or is that just me? Like I can't hear one person to say like a good thing about the first investment that they did.
I'm trying to think of what I did first. No, I got a good track record. That's just you, man.
Oh, I don't know. I guess like because in my mind it's like this, right? Like you get access to the seed deal, and it's not particularly good, but it's the first time that you've gotten access, and you're like, holy fuck, I gotta do this.
Yeah, and you get excited, and you don't really. Yeah, I think that's going to be like an interesting learn. Like we're a year into Echo now, year and a half or something, and obviously this style of investing is very different for a lot of people from just open market liquid buying. Like it looks nice to see, okay, I'm buying at 100 mil val and it's going to launch at 1 bill. You're like, sweet, I made a bunch of money, but you're locked up for 4 years. You like it's a whole different ball game. It'll be interesting to see how, like, do you see drop off where people just get burned too many times where it's like, oh, sick, like my fourth, gaming NFT project that I funded that is a zero. it's like still locked up and already at a zero. I'm over this. I'm going back to liquid tokens. Like, be interesting to see how that evolves.
Yeah, I think there's a cyclicality effect here, Bach, where obviously Echo's making waves right now, so maybe a ton of new people will sign up and do like the next big deal that appears. And to Felix's point, like, let's see what happens. Maybe that project is up massively day one, but they don't unlock for the next year, and 4 years after that, they might be down net by the time that fully comes to fruition. So I think at a point in time, it can look really attractive, and then you look back, as the years go by, and say, "Wow, that was actually an awful investment."
It's gonna happen to me.
I feel like the sweet spot for just average investors that can be accredited or something, or like just barely become accredited and can do this, is the stuff that's like 1 year lockup or maybe 6 month lockup, and bet at a higher valuation. I think that's a great place to play at for a lot of people. I think, like, don't get caught up in just chasing pre-seed seed stuff. And like, there's a reason VCs do what they do, which is a shotgun approach, because 95% of those go to zero, and that's expected and normal. They're not losing sleep on it. But I think playing a bit more higher up in that process is probably a good thing for most people.
Yeah. If you don't have the network, then it probably makes sense to just, if you think something's a great deal and there's no lockup, then you're probably gonna have better success than spraying and praying and all the stuff that's getting handed down to you.
Yeah. Also, if somebody's reaching out to you to do a seed round, it's probably not a good seed round. That's a very key.
Wait, we're having trouble filling this seed round. Do you want in?
You need to be begging people for it, and that's a good thing. Felix, can I get your official I solved macro take on why Bitcoin is not doing particularly well, or I guess crypto is not doing particularly well.
Well, the issue is that it's not. I don't know. It's not a. I'm okay. 2026, I am super, super, super bullish on from a macro perspective. Like we had the CPI print coming today, came out cool. That's really good. Kind of keeps us on the same runway. We're in this government shutdown right now, so we have almost like no data points coming out. So this is, I don't think we're going to get next month's CPI print. We didn't get last month's jobs report, so we have very little things to go off. So this is like one of the only things we have going on. Came out soft. So that pretty much sets us up nicely for rate cuts for the next few meetings, pretty clearly, at least at like 25 bips. So you have that runway for the next few months, and then you move pretty quickly into the next Fed chair to replace Powell. And no matter what happens, it's going to be a dove. Like it's going to be somebody with an easing tilt. I think it's still up for debate on whether they can wrangle dominance of the composition of the Fed board of governors, because it's not just Powell deciding, okay, I'm gonna cut rates today. It's a committee, so they need to get basically a majority of the governors, and then I think the playbook was for them to then be able to pressure when all the presidents get nominated or renominated next year. They could get in a bunch of doves, and then basically through that, suddenly you just have this majority composition of the FOMC that's super, super dovish, and then just cut rates to 2 or 1% or something like that. And so we'll see if that happens. I think a lot of it is dependent on whether they can fire Cook or not, and that whole thing. So whether that happens or not is probably going to decide whether they can get majority. But regardless, you're going to have a super dovish Fed chair. That's a given. A lot of the fiscal side of things, like the big beautiful bill, yes, I got passed a few months ago, but a lot of the actual tangible stimulative sides of things start in 2026. So you've actually had this weird few months where you've had the tariff revenue, which is just like sucking money out of the economy. So that's kind of growth negative, but you haven't had the offsetting positive impulses from the big beautiful bill. That's starting in 2026. So when I look at 2026, it's like, okay, super stimulative monetary, super stimulative fiscal. And then you compare that with just market structure right now. So obviously gold's been sending and everybody's just been kind of losing their minds because Bitcoin isn't keeping up with it. And it's perplexing to me. There's been a lot of weird kind of liquidity things in TradFi recently. Don't need to get too deep into it, but just to say that liquidity has been a little strange. And I think there's been some hiccups because of that, some weird derivative stuff that maybe James can get into in terms of OPEX recently. But overall, it's been very hiccupy recently. And then you have like the crypto specific stuff of like the October 10th crash, everybody getting out there, like washing out 40% of open interest. And then now you have ancient whales still selling Bitcoin. You have a lot of people selling because they believe in the 4-year cycle peak happening like right now. So it creates this kind of choppy mental illness market, I think, for obviously the past month. And I think it'll probably continue for the next 2 months. But to me, that's just like a time to really accumulate, because none of that really matters in 2026. And even further, like if you move into 2026, you could have a situation specific to crypto where you have, okay, retail just got decimated on perp trading, like they're just zeroed.
Yeah.
You have a ton of people that have sold because of 4-year cycle peak type stuff. And then at the same time, you have the ETF marginal buyers just keep chugging away, and they've been slow recently for sure, but they're not thinking about halvings. Like I don't think the average person buying like an avid ETF knows what the difficulty adjustment is. So I just don't think that stuff is really relevant to them deciding to buy or not, as it has been for the past few years. So I think that sets up like a lot of chasing in 2026, where a lot of like crypto natives are going to be super sidelined, and we just see this like grind higher. That's my read. So it's just trying to get to that point. So I think it's just like slow accumulation, not getting too chopped up here in these choppy markets. But it's been hard, that's for sure. Like I got super bullish right before the liquidation in October 10th, but managed to get stopped out pretty quick. So kind of cut some losses, but like very, very minor. But obviously, you have to survive to get from point A to point B to actually see the gains. So that was like a good lesson of like, even through that process, I was like, nothing's really changed for my fundamental views. It's just trying to risk manage to get to the other side of the trade.
I will say,
go
go ahead, James. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, Felix, like, do you think I'm mid curving it by thinking and spending too much time thinking about strategy and other DATs and their like just complete inability to raise and bid over the last couple of weeks and months? Like, do you think that's gonna change based on anything that you mentioned in 2026, and they'll come back to the market with like a more sustained bid?
No, yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good contra argument, is that perhaps we've been elevated by those DATs, and those DATs just like can hardly buy anymore.
Yeah, they're just locked out, right? Totally locked out.
Yeah. So I mean, I think you're on the same page as me that I don't think there's like major risk in them becoming forced sellers of the tokens they own already, but it's just they're not going to be marginal buyers. So yeah, maybe you just need to wait for whoever that new marginal buyer is. But in the meantime, yeah, I think that is a good point. Like, I don't see any sort of upside coming from DATs at anytime soon.
And I mean, we've been getting really bad DATs recently as well. Like, we're getting into the
I was
stops.
crashing out about the bear chain DAT because I have severe, as a Canadian, I have severe PTSD about the wheat stock bubble in like 2017. Like, that was all everybody was talking about here. And like, ground zero of that bubble was this guy like Bruce Linton at Canopy Growth. He was like the CEO of it, and then he brought it public, and then like right at the Pico top, he just basically quit and was like, sweet, good job everybody, left it like 25 bill. I think it's at like 500 million now. So now he's the chairman of the board of that bear chain DAT, and I'm just like, dude, like.
And I also think to Felix's point of like talking about the macro lineup for 2026, like, and if we like segue this back to DATs, I do kind of feel like you need to delineate the difference between Bitcoin and everything else, right? Like, and that was, I think that was really well evidenced by the performance of basically everything before like DATs really went crazy this summer, right? Like ETH was completely a dead asset, and you know, I guess we can debate this, but I hold strongly to my belief that the only reason it got an all-time high was because of Tom Lee, and it's pretty obvious that it's struggling without him currently being in the markets now. So I'm just really weary of assets like that and like what the value proposition is to buy something like ETH for the next like 6 months to a year. Like, is it gonna, if you're playing like a macro framework, like just express it through Bitcoin? Why would you express it through ETH? Because there's really nothing else going on with the asset right now.
Yeah, Liquid, I pretty much just only own Bitcoin right now.
But the ETH argument isn't macro stuff, right? Like, the ETH argument is tokenization. Like, that's been
Right, but I'm
thing.
saying like that argument's not like a real one, right? And I mean that seriously. Like that, like the argument when ETH went from whatever 1,400 to all-time highs was all of like the tokenization, everyone's adopting the stuff. And my argument was like, no, BMNR is just slamming buy for like several weeks, and I think that proved to be the correct take, right? Like selling it to Tom Lee was the right move.
Yeah. Do you see there being a tokenization, I guess, like narrative pop up eventually? Because like on our side, if you are scrolling through Twitter or if you're like getting any inbound, all you see is tokenization stuff. And this is like historically private credit, money market funds, and now more and more so stocks. A lot of the Robinhood stock, a lot of stocks have been tokenized by Robinhood recently on Arbitrum. The volume and the liquidity is horrible at this point, but I imagine it only gets better, right? So like you're seeing an active shift on chain for tokenization. You don't think it's
no. I mean, what I think in that, I think actually doesn't matter. So like, let's just assume from the perspective that your argument is correct and things are going to be massively tokenized. There's nothing beyond a narrative argument as to why that should benefit Ethereum, right? It's this whole concept of like, oh, if everyone builds their corpo chains on L2s and all that good stuff, like Ethereum should go up in price. And it's like, well, like not really, right? Like narrative based, sure, but there's no like mechanistic way to make it go up. In the same sense, when people pitch you on Solana and they're like, yes, people are gambling and there's increased REV, token goes up, like got it. Like there's a mechanical flow there. Like that's just not there for Ethereum, right?
Yeah, the value accrual just doesn't exist for ETH.
But I guess like for Bitcoin, it doesn't have any value accrual. but it has that not deflationary, but it has that like digital gold narrative, which can make it go up. But
Yeah,
for
I think that's
Ethereum,
just like no, like Bitcoin's like a magic unicorn, right? Like I think candidly, like it's just a different asset, and I think that debate is like over at this point, which is
yeah,
why I think ETH has been so like middling, because it's like trying to play both sides of that. Like, oh, we're going to be money because it's Lindy, and then at the same time have like a very technical argument as to why it's going to accrue value. So it's kind of like a tweener in between both of those. And it's kind of not doing great at either of them, which I think is reflected in the fact that the token really hasn't done much in quite some time.
yeah. To be fair, Solana's also not doing great. Like against that argument, I guess is Solana gambling has subsided, and a lot of people claimed that it was going to be cyclical, and we've seen that it's at least semi-cyclical, right? Like in that it has gone down now quite a bit, versus like the Ethereum bull case is that, I mean, if like there's no revenue ever, so we're just gonna keep going on.
Why
Like there's
why has no perp dex gotten any traction on Solana? Is it like a technical thing? Like I'm dumb in that world, but I'm just curious.
It was a technical thing for a very long time because market makers, well, initially they had some issues with like uptime, and you can't onboard a lot of institutional capital, or I guess like a lot of capital in general, if you're gonna have uptime issues, especially if like prices are crashing and the chain isn't working. And then I think they had some issues with prioritizing cancels, which meant that market makers couldn't participate in the way that they wanted to. And then now I think it's mainly just that they don't really have a good product. Like
But
my argument has,
apparently building one.
yeah, I think that one was a vibe coded project that totally forgot. That was his argument, which to me seemed like if you're the founder of Solana and you're creating something that everyone's talking about, you want to private it, right? Like you don't want it in a public repo. But like the existing competitors are just horrible on Solana. Like Drift is. Have you used Drift, Felix?
I used Drift in like when it first launched in like, what was that, 2021 or something? I don't even know, but yeah, I actually remember that was the time when Solana, like you had to hit Phantom like 80 times to get a transaction through, and yeah, it's just like you can't trade a perp dex like that.
No, you can't.
Yeah,
they we talk about this quite a bit. I talked about this with Ryan Connor quite a bit because he's been historically like a soul bull and a soul perps bull specifically because he thinks if an asset exists on a base chain and you can also trade perps on that base chain, that is good because you can run more complex strategies. I think that kind of makes sense. But on the other hand, it just hasn't happened. And I think we've like people want performance and they want like a familiar UX and they want a lot of listings. And there's like two competitors, I think, at like two products at this point that offer it. One lighter, one hyper liquid. We'll see if the Solana boys ever catch up. I wouldn't be surprised if they try. I mean, they have so much money over there. That to me, it seems almost like lazy to not do like a proper bid for it. Yeah. James, so what are you bullish on apart from hating on Ethereum?
I don't know. I'm bullish on kind of just hanging out and not going crazy over the next couple of months. Like personally, all I'm doing right now is I have spot Bitcoin, and then I sold all my plasma near the TGE, and I kept most of the proceeds in the ecosystem. There's still just a lot of pretty interesting yield farming stuff to do there. Shout out to our goat river. So yeah, that's where I'm spending most of my time, is just farming stuff on plasma right now, and just hanging out and trying to find like interesting deals and stuff to do on the side.
That's a crazy call out you just made. Yeah, I sold all my plasma and I'm farming the rewards. Thanks, River.
I don't know. No. That was not the connection I was drawing. I mean, I did the shout out was more so just he developed a lot of like obviously awesome connections in the ecosystem and stuff. Stuff went live.
No, you're good. I'm bagging on you.
You didn't sell your plasma. You rotated into USDTO so that you could take advantage of all the on-chain activity in the plasma ecosystem.
See, yeah, you need to learn how to speak in this industry.
You gotta get media trained, James.
Yes, exactly.
I will say that's probably my favorite way to do anything, James, in that like there's like a few opportunities a year. Guy, I hate quoting this guy. It was MGNR, MNGR. Do you know what I'm talking about? And he has that like 5
Yeah.
like actually true. Like there's 5 times a year where you have to get exposure. It's like an ICO, or it's like there's like a very short deposit window, but like, or like it's a new very cool asset that is being sold at way too low prices, and then that's when you
Yeah,
get
like,
more.
I personally,
though. Yeah.
That's
I spend a
100%
ton of
true.
time in crypto, but like I don't really like I can't really don't really even like do that much in terms of like transacting and making like big trades. Like most of the time I'm just in different groups listening to things and trying to find interesting ideas. Like I definitely don't think you need to constantly be taking trades and chopping yourself up. There's just no benefit.
No, definitely not. And if you meet a few good, interesting people, they'll tell you when there's something that's good that's gonna pop up. Like everyone was talking about, I don't know, when Hyperliquid launched. I don't want to give anything too recent, or like when XPL pre-deposit vaults went live, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
everyone was
exactly.
talking about that was a great opportunity. And like apart from that, you really don't have to play to win. One thing about this is that Twitter has become increasingly negative for getting any value out of, versus like I feel like private chats or like just building connections through regular means is a lot better to actually make money.
Yeah, nobody actually talks about what they're doing on CT anymore. It's just like LinkedIn slop, basically, and
Yeah.
memes. And but I mean, you kind of have to. Like, what's the upside for doing that? Like, you can become some sort of, you know, cold poster, but then you get one thing wrong, and then, you know, everybody hates you, and it's like, well, I'm not even like making money off this. So it's like, why not just actually hang out with my friends that are keen to have like a nuanced discussion, and then I'm just going to shitpost on Twitter and just have fun anyway. So
Yeah. The only good thing about Twitter is that you get free money given to you 3 times a year from projects.
yeah, I'm okay with cold posting for another year after my Monad eligibility looked pretty good.
Very good.
Yeah, I feel
Danny.
like on the Twitter side, the only accounts that you'll see maybe actual actionable advice from are probably locked, and they've probably been locked for a long time. So if you're not following them today, you're probably not seeing what they're talking about.
Yeah, guys, make sure to follow James Christoph's alt. It's called Riley_GMI, and it has a lot of alpha. It's locked behind a paywall, so that's a good one.
Make sure to follow James before he locks his account.
Yeah, that's a very good one. Yeah, like I spent the last couple of days on Twitter telling Payne Yoda that he adopted me and he needs to give me some cheeseburgers. So yeah, that's what I've been spending my time on.
That's very good with Chain Yoda. The one thing I will say is that there is like, okay, we were talking about Echo. One thing I wanted to add there is like, there's this new article. Do you guys know DeFi Monk? I don't know if you're familiar with him. Anyway, he used to work at Masari, now works at Synchrony Capital. Very
Oh,
smart
yeah,
guy. I had him on
yeah.
a pod once. He posted this article about crypto optimism, and I feel like we spent a good amount of the past year and a half complaining. I mean, James has complained since he was born, I presume, but like we've just for a year and a half, it was all about financial nihilism. You have to trade, you have to post coal, you have to be very upset constantly. But Echo, fundamentally a good product. Prediction markets, fundamentally a good product. A lot of like new chains are actually relatively interesting. So like life is actually kind of good if you can just crypto is actually kind of good if you can just take a step back and not doom posts on Twitter about how everything is
Yeah,
meme coins.
I read that article. It was good. I feel like it's just like this. We're in this weird moment. I've seen some people compare it to basically like tech post.com crash in 2000, where you're sort of going through the ashes, trying to figure out what's real or not. And you know, you look at like, for sure, we can say that the crypto industry, like 70% of it is just like recursive looping and not really much real there. But I think that 30% is very, very powerful. And then, you know, maybe some people are just trying to come to terms with it. It's like, okay, well, what are the best useful things that we've created? Is it just stablecoin payments, lending and borrowing, and sending stuff from one country to the other really quickly with a very little amount of fees? Is that it? And it's sort of this moment of trying to figure it out, like, or do we keep going down the route of, you know, is there ways that you use crypto in gaming or like NFTs or any sort of these more cultural touch points that we've seen bubbles come and go in? And I feel like it's just this coming to terms between the two. Like, is it just making financial services more efficient from one form or another, or is there all this other stuff? And I feel like that's sort of one of the big things people are trying to figure out right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also think like something that can help people feel better is like just because you emotionally feel like something is silly or like the industry is not progressing in the way that you think it is or think it should, like that does not preclude you from taking advantage of that situation and making money, right? Like there's many things that I think are stupid and silly in the industry, but like if there's a way to trade them and invest in them in a way that makes money, like that's what your job is as an investor, not to kind of just bloviate and complain about things being stupid.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think you see it on the intrad markets as well right now. I think there's probably plenty of people who are upset about, Trump picking stocks, but it's like, if you really want to, like, there's a way to make money doing that. If you can believe in the Intel, thesis there and just get long and hope he's going to pump it for you. But yeah, I think you see a lot of people get like upset because it's not like, it doesn't conform to their way of thinking about maybe
Yeah,
how
dude, it's like
the market should work.
Zero Hedge complaining about like quote unquote the Fed pumping stocks since 2009 while remaining net short stocks since 2009. It's like, well, dude, if you believe your own fucking conspiracy theory, then just buy the stocks.
I mean, maybe crypto was just early to the idea of like the stupidification of finance, and because now it's happening a lot more in TradFi. Like, there's this kind of thing where people that are still just trading alts are just going insane. But in TradFi, you have like fake vegan slop companies going absolutely crazy right now.
It's about Beyond Meat.
Yeah, Beyond Meat. Like you're seeing increased stupidification in TradFi now. And I think a lot of people thought it was just like a ZERP era phenomenon, like 2021, Wall Street bets type stuff. But I do think it's just like there's a more secular shift that's happened. And I think there's a lot of people trying to come to terms with it. And maybe just in crypto, it happened quicker and it's more explicit in the way that you can see it.
Holy fuck, Beyond went crazy. I didn't know this was a thing. I definitely agree with that. I wonder if sorry.
Go ahead. Bach, you want to say something? Go ahead.
I want to say something. I wonder if it's just because retail is getting more and more involved within crypto, though, within general finance, though. Like, I feel like, I don't know when it happened, but at some point,
no, it's
retail
definitely
decided,
right.
What? Like,
you just think about it, like your average person is very stupid, and now there's way more people trading markets, so there's more stupid people in there. So, like, less quote smart things are occurring. Like, it just makes sense. If you have every single person in the world participating in a market, your median transaction is going to reflect the flavor of the median person participating in the markets.
James, I want to ask you if you I agree with that. Like, by nature, the average person has to be kind of dumb compared to the smart ones. And like, a lot of people criticize accredited investor rules for being like, okay, why should it just be based on like how much money you have or something like that, to be able to access private rounds and things like that. And now we're going into this world, tying it back to Echo again, where you have more and more people being able to be involved in that. And yes, like within Echo, you still need to be able to show that you're an accredited investor, but more and more is this ability for people that might be getting into things where they are not fully aware of all the risks and considerations. Like, do you think it's good to have regulation like accredited investor rules?
Yeah, so where I've always like fell on this is I don't think you should have accredited investor rules like to gatekeep people out of it. But where I think you should have things is I actually think you should have a far more strict and forceful securities regulatory body that like actually enforces things and sends people to jail for long periods of time for running afoul of those. Right. So like I think if you strip away all of the regulation and disclosures, you probably get very, very bad actors quickly that flood the marketplace. And I think like as long as you do a good job of actually sending those people to prison and investigating them quickly, I think it's fine. But like you can't strip away all of the regulation without having some enforcement, because like at the end of the day, you're just gonna have like Boccaccio's grandmother investing in like an XIV fund and it just goes to zero one day. And like we just know time and time again that's what's going to happen. Which like I'm not
I
in
think all
support
my
of.
grandma's stupid.
but like I'm not a free
Your
market
grandma was
fatalist.
shorting the VIX in size.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe an interesting part here is like there's so many opportunities now to invest in something that maybe is worthless, or a SPAC that goes live at 20 billion val, and unknowing retail puts their life savings in it and it goes to zero. Having a creditor investor law so that they can't invest in like the private markets doesn't prevent them from gambling it elsewhere within the market per se. And listening to a KOL shill some stock or shill like options that are super out of the money that maybe they'll just lose all their money on because the stock doesn't move.
I feel like that's a good example of that, because the accredited investors
Exactly
are
right.
in the pipe, and then they're getting good deal terms, and then retail is the exit liquidity because all they have access to is the publicly traded equity, and they get that at the Pico top, while all the pipe investors can just sell to retail, and they're just getting fleeced.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect
Is it
example. So if you think of like Son Therapeutics, like just real quick, Spuck, the hyperliquid DAT, like that was literally case in point where the DAT went live, traded up to 20, and literally there's just so much retail fervor that like no one obviously read the docs and understood the dilution from the warrants that was coming. And like that's just they're just too complex of instruments for people to understand. And I think it's
Yeah.
actually fair to not expect people to understand them.
I mean, every cycle, I guess we get one of these. No, like last time around it was SPACs, and I guess we still have SPACs now. But you get like very complex and unnecessary instruments that people just want to buy for some reason, and then they end up losing a lot of money. I actually think one of the I think what would kind of make sense for something like accredited investor laws would be you have still the money thing, but you also like let people do, I don't know, 30, like an actually long course, such that if somebody is actually like going to take the time to go over it and figure it out, they can invest in whatever they want. So you like kind of, I guess I don't want to say the word democratize access because I feel like we overuse that a bit, but you do kind of democratize access in that sense. Because or else I think there should be some, like I'm generally against, I wouldn't want this, but I can see how like logically someone would want to say you want to protect people's finances from the big bad chimoffs of the world. And I think that's probably the best way to do
I
it.
guess my
Like
question for people that are like that take a libertarian view of like, oh, laissez-faire, let everything like operate. Like I do think finance and your own money is like a very sacred thing, and we as a society are very okay with regulation on things around medicine and law and having qualifications and all this kind of stuff. I don't know why people have this like visceral reaction to thinking that it's somehow bad or like over moralistic to protect people in markets where they're going to get scammed, right? Like this is literally what gave us the 2021 cycle.
No,
Yeah,
I guess I'm not
to-
over moralistic. It's just like I feel like the government, it'll be very inefficient. Like if you get too involved, then it'll take like 5 months to do something. Like if you deal with the government with forms, with education, or with like certificates that the government offers, and it's like part of just you have to serve so many people that it just ends up becoming inefficient, which is why I would want to.
Yeah, but the alternative can't be like, oh, it's too slow, so let's just allow
Yeah.
like illegal things to occur and people will lose their life savings and kill
Yeah.
themselves. Like I'm not okay with that. I don't want
Yeah,
that
that's
trade.
Well, you're making it sound like I'm very okay with it, which I'm also not. Just want to.
No, I'm not saying you are. I'm saying a lot of people in crypto are, is what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's tough. You always have to kind of make sure that everybody is protected, but the way to do that is by being really annoying. And people who don't get scammed are like, oh, why do we need these? And then once you get scammed, it's like the Zach messages, right? Like if Zach shows out that there's a scam, Zach XBT, I don't know why I'm calling him by his first name like he's my army buddy, but Zach XBT says, if Zach XBT says like, oh, like this coin's a scam and you're in the scam, you get upset. But then like if you get scammed, you're like DMing him and saying, hey man, I really need help. It's the same thing.
The funny example of this was last cycle when Mark Cuban was all excited about DeFi, and then he got rugged on, what was it, like Iron Finance?
Iron
or
Bank,
something?
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Iron Bank, and then he was like, "Oh my God, we need to regulate DeFi. We need to understand these things better."
Well, it just goes to show you, no one in this space has any principles. Everything is like always relative to the position that they're in.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's the space though. It's like nowhere anywhere has any principles. It's just like relevant because like even in politics, if you there's that like flow chart meme where it's like if you get robbed, you become like a conservative, and then if
Yeah,
your
of course.
taxes go up,
Yeah.
why you become a libertarian and stuff. So it's just that it's just everywhere. But in crypto, everything is, I think, very very transparent because I think a very large portion of the market is retail. That like it's very obvious when something happens that it's very exaggerated, right? Does that make sense?
For
James,
sure. It makes sense
please
without you.
confirm that it makes sense.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take. Maybe to add is like, I think in crypto you have, just because the community is still so like relatively grassroots, at least like the CT retail side of things, you see pretty frequent like loud call outs of like, yeah, this team is scammers, XYZ, you know, whatever. Whereas maybe in the more traditional world, you don't get as much of that. And it's just continuous like grandstanding on, you know, go on NBC and shill your stock that makes no money, but we're going to say, wow, that's great. We hope you guys success. You don't really have like a live CT audience that's calling people out maybe for misleading investors.
Okay. Felix, James, I'm going to let you guys go. We're going to get the MegaETH guys on. Is that okay?
Cool.
Find some
Fun-
find some alpha
fun
for our
hanging, guys.
bags.
Thanks for coming on,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye.
Let's enjoy that.
I don't know if James knows how to leave. I think I got to remove him.
Just pull
There
them
we
off. Before we bring the MegaETH guys in, do a quick shout out to while Bach coughs to our sponsor for today's stream, Aptos. Bitcoin DeFi is heating up on Aptos with nearly 400 million in BTC assets on chain. Aptos users can now earn yield on their Bitcoin via Echo aBTC and OKX's xBTC without the typical bridge risks and high fees. Thanks again to Aptos for sponsoring today's stream. Back to it.
Nice. I got to ping Namik to come on. Give me a sec.
Thanks again to James and Felix for hopping on. That was a good conversation. I like how open the topics are with those guys. I mean, from James, you know, he follows all the project leads on Twitter and just badgers them constantly. So
he's actually kind of cooled down on that a bit. Sorry, no, he's actually kind of cooled down on that a bit.
I think he'll find somebody else. Don't worry.
Yeah, for sure. I think he got bored with Tia.
Yeah, almost certainly. I mean, it's like, what are you going to do when the thing just goes sideways forever? It's like not that interesting to bully the guy that.
It's $1.50 again today. No. I guess.
Well,
I was.
Yeah, go ahead.
We never really talked about this. What happened? I guess, like, have you noticed a fundamental shift in the market since October 10, in your personal opinion, in your personal professional opinion?
In terms of what? What do you mean?
I don't know. Like, it's just not going up anymore. It was going up before. Now every coin that is being sold into. I think we had the X402 thing, like, for literally 13 hours. The meta, the new meta was 13 hours long, and that's very short. Like,
I don't know if I would agree that like the market was going up. There were things that were going up, but like Bitcoin was not going up. ETH has not been going up since, you know, midsummer. DAT activity got fully priced in. Sol went up on their DAT activity and hasn't been going up since. So I don't know. I think we've seen different pockets, and you know, we just had a different pocket kind of fill up and then deflate a little bit.
Yeah.
And we're already.
I'm gonna bring in. There we go. Hey, Namik, how you doing? You're muted. Is he muted?
Is your mic on?
Very good.
Live tech support.
This happens to me like 3 times a month, so yeah, that's it.
Maybe just the intro we brought.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Can hear you now.
Yes.
How's
Hello,
it going?
Namik. How you doing?
Long
Good. How are
time
you?
no see.
Long time no see. We I think I had MegaETH people on since then. I did a panel with Lay, and then I had Brett on a few weeks back, right? Danny, was it a few weeks back, or was it a few months back? A few weeks back.
With a
Is it?
panel, we did have Brad
No,
recently.
we had him
few
on a
weeks
live stream. It's good. He comes. He's very media trained. He's very good. One of my, all of you guys are very media trained. I'm very, very impressed with. Do you have somebody in the background doing all of the speech writing and all of the practice?
Yeah, I
or
have
no?
someone behind the camera with a whiteboard telling
Very
me
good.
exactly what to say.
Very good. Big week for you guys, or I guess like big announcement week for you guys. Do you wanna? I guess how do you want to do this? Do you want to share a bit about what you guys are gonna do, and then we'll ask some specific questions.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys once again. I don't think I've ever been on a Twitter stream. Feels very fancy. Yeah, it's a pretty cool week on our end. We, for people who have been following and people who haven't been, we announced that we're doing a public sale of Sonar on basically sometime last week, and earlier this week on Wednesday we gave the details. Since then we've shared a bit more about our thinking for the Mega token, both in terms of its utility, how the token operates within the MegaETH blockchain and the MegaETH system, as well as just our general thinking on distribution, how to create healthy networks. So we can discuss whatever you'd like. On the sales side, we did something that was somewhat unique. We're doing an English auction starting at a 1 mil FDV, capped at a 999 mil FDV. We chose that number solely because, I just don't think it's right for us to try and sell to retail at super egregious valuations. I think that I don't believe in airdrops. So how do you create an equitable system? This was it. On the utility side, the MegaETH token has two major utilities. Firstly, it powers our sequencer rotation. We do this to minimize end-to-end latency for users during key economic hours. We want to have, the MegaETH blockchain, the sequencer, has 10 millisecond block times. That sounds cool in theory, but in practice, you don't live next to the sequencer. So the idea is effectively, hey, how do we get the sequencer next to you when it matters? And that's more or less economic hours. This is very similar to how the FX markets worked back in the day. Yeah. So that's that. Another cool thing about the MegaETH token utility is around our proximity markets, where we effectively enable the value of co-location to go back to the end user. And that's, in my opinion, a very equitable model, which effectively has all stakeholders benefit from. Obviously, better pricing, better execution, but more important, the value that an application or market maker might have being in close proximity to the sequencer. And finally, we introduced KPI vesting earlier today, actually. I don't know if you guys saw that. And that was basically our attempt to try and solve a very difficult problem in crypto, which is unlocks aren't necessarily sustainable, right? And we've seen this time after time again. When we use unlocks and team unlocks as a function of time, it doesn't make sense particularly, right? Why should a team be any wealthier next year or the year after that if they're effectively doing nothing that warrants more success? And that's in general why I think there's been such a agitation in the market between market caps and fully diluted valuations. Our attempt is effectively to directly connect these additional, supply unlocks with in a sustainable manner where the ecosystem is actually healthier and stronger each time an unlock happens. And we redistribute that into the hands of people who stake the Mega token, effectively allowing anyone who believes in the mission to illustrate that value. And if it's good, if it turns out well, good for them. If it turns out poorly, not as good.
This is interesting. We were talking about this a bit before. I think it's KPI staking is very, very interesting, or I guess KPI based unlocks. One thing I said was that I feel like you guys shouldn't have to be the ones doing this because you're kind of a legit team, versus I feel like other teams should probably have to do this. But I'm very, very excited to see somebody take the helm and run with it. The other thing is the airdrops. You don't like airdrops? No, that makes sense.
Do you like airdrops? I mean, I like getting airdrops, but people like selling them very quickly.
Yeah, I get the gist of it. But I mean, I think you guys are doing the next best thing, right? Like allowing people to buy in at what is this the third time you're letting people buy in?
Yeah, so the first time we did a sell was Echo. So we did an Echo sell at the same valuation as Vitalik and Joe and Kobe. And I know that you guys, the Blockworks team, love Solana allegedly. So we got some Solana guys too, like Mert and Austin. I'm just teasing, obviously. So we had like a wide range of stakeholders. That was like a multi-year vest, right? It's like a 1-year cliff, multi-year vest. It illustrates one kind of user persona and one user interest. Which was pretty awesome, right? We had, I believe, over 80% of all Echo users try to participate in the sale. We sold out in the first 3 minutes, which was really amazing. I think it's the largest sale in Echo history. That was great, but I think that there were some issues with the architecture, mostly that, in an attempt to follow AML laws, it was unbelievably restrictive, right? A lot of KYC to a invasive manner. And I think a lot of people don't like KYC. So what we did is we did the Fluffle sale. The Fluffle sale also followed AML laws, but the solution here was to satisfy a different section of the market, not want to, dox their entire lives to, get a Fluffle. And that's effectively what we did there. The terms were very different, where we effectively allowed, 50% to unlock day one for the Fluffle holder alongside a 6-month vest, $500 million valuation. We thought that was very fair. Also sold out more or less instantly. We had to create a waiting room using Cloudflare so that we didn't create a gas war. But that was, another solution. And finally, what we're doing here is we're effectively trying to find a way to distribute more of the network. And we said, hey, let the user choose the valuation they think is fair. We capped it at just south of $1 billion, just because, I don't think that's necessary. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thesis.
Do you expect there to be I guess there won't be any gas wars for this one, but do you guys have projections on your side as in how many people you expect to participate?
I mean, I think it's all a question of who's interested and taking the opportunity to act if they want to act. Whatever happens, I think we're prepared. In the case of an oversubscription, we've effectively built out a protocol. We have our algorithms ready on our side to be able to fairly distribute in the case of an oversubscription, and that's something that we've shared publicly, so everyone's fully aware of how we're planning on doing that.
And then, okay, let's talk about MegaETH, the chain. What's going to be live day one? Are we expecting all the Mega Mafia guys to be live day one?
We have a couple. We have a couple of really, really cool applications I'm excited for. From the day one camp, obviously we have a bunch of DeFi stuff like lending, DEXs, perps, really cool. Don't want to discredit them whatsoever. What I'm really excited for is some of the cooler gamification experiences, which will be live on Mega Day One. I think namely, you've probably already spoken about these guys on the pod, Euphoria. Euphoria is indicated to be live day one, which is like super exciting. I actually have access to the product on my phone. I can show you guys. The game is actually live. Well, if it loads, who knows? There we go. So you're able to actually play with the right price feeds. Real money will be, it's on testnet, so it's not ready, but the product exists, and I'm excited for it to be live day one of mainnet.
How are you thinking about like early, getting early users and capital onto the chain, day one? We've seen some other big chains do, liquidity incentives continue to be sort of a strategy. What are you guys thinking there?
Sure. So I think the thesis for us is, what is a win condition for MegaETH? What's like a short-term win condition, and how is that represented in like our long-term win condition? Or I guess flip those around. Short-term, what we want is we want people to understand that like there is a new design space here. I think that we as an industry are exhausted. We are disillusioned. We don't think that anything new will come out. That there's that famous Totally quote, right? There's only 5 contracts, smart contracts in crypto that matter. Nothing else matters. And my entire thesis has always been, hey, if that's it, I think we failed as an industry. Why do we not have all of these things we've dreamed about, we've pitched? I'm going to assume the reason the 3 of us came into crypto was not because of the power of a permissionless casino and meme coin launchpad. So if we don't have it, I think one excuse is the block space is not performant enough, it's not abundant enough. With Mega being live day one, I think that excuse is no longer available, right? Maybe we still don't have anything that's important, and I would be quite sad as an industry. But yeah, I think short term, what matters to me a lot is making sure these apps exist and making sure users are going to be using these apps. So to that effect, we're actually going to be having a kind of rewards campaign during the first, first period of the mainnet, where we'll basically allow people to come and use the chain, use these cool applications, experience these cool applications, and doing so we'll give you a bonus on your existing MegaETH investments. So anyone who has even participated in the public sale, anyone who's participated in the Fluffles or the Echoes round, anyone who's even tried to participate in any of these rounds, so anyone who's ever illustrated even a modicum of interest in MegaETH will be able to participate in a campaign effectively on mainnet, where they come and they use the chain, they get rewards for using the chain, and those rewards are obviously denominated in that.
That makes sense. Rewards program. One thing I've been kind of nervous about is you guys have a very, very performant chain, right? And it's a very unique take on like building this thing that's you guys call real time. How's testing going? I guess is a good question. Like are we all stable? Are we gonna be very, very good day one? I don't want to jinx anything, but like this has crossed my mind quite a bit. And that I met Lei, and he seems very trustworthy, and so do you, and so does Bing, and so does Brett. But is this something that you guys have been like everything is very, very stable?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. By no means is anyone trying to have the chain get hacked. Knock on wood, nothing bad happens. I would say the biggest pain point of building a blockchain that's as performant as MegaETH is RPC, right? RPC pain points. It's been an attack vector for Mega historically. Glad that we've been able to push some really, really good updates also on testnet now live, but really in preparation for mainnet. We'll have an announcement coming out, in the short future about a great RPC provider that we're working with, right? That's been able to build like the most performant RPC out of all the RPC providers in the market today. So we've been really, crossing our, however the American term says, like crossing our T's or crossing our I's on that one. But yeah, we gotta believe sometimes,
Yeah, that's true. You did something with the oracles as well, right? Like oracle design was difficult.
Yeah. So what's the point of building this real-time blockchain if all of DeFi is reliant on price feeds that are as slow as Ethereum or as slow as one fast chain, not a real-time chain. And the thinking there was effectively, well, that's not very good. So we basically worked very closely with the team over at Chainlink to bring effectively industry-grade security into the Oracle guarantee and effectively build a real-time Oracle for the Chainlink team. We've also worked with the Redstone team as well in the past, so we have a lot of Oracle options for users. But yeah, we announced the Chainlink integration very recently, and I think everyone's really excited to be able to bring real-time price feeds into DeFi.
Last up, and then Danny can ask more. USDM, is that going to be day one stablecoin, or are you bringing in USDT, USDC, etc. as well?
Yeah, so USDM will be live day one. I think that's a really cool initiative of ours, way to provide more value to basically the stakeholders in the MegaETH ecosystem. But yeah, we also absolutely love the team over at USDT, right? Big fans of Tether, big fans of USDT Zero in particular. The team over there is fantastic, very, very close partners, and I think that the two are actually super complementary. And I expect some of the biggest pools in all of MegaETH to be USDT Zero pairs.
Makes sense.
On the stablecoin, I think is really interesting. You mentioned driving value to stakeholders, token holders. I guess, are you guys thinking about other products through this same lens? Anything on your mind, or is that probably more of a longer term thing?
Yeah, I think that our vision is very much one of providing as much value to our users, right? Yeah, stablecoin. I think we always saw it. A non-yield bearing T-bill stablecoin is a public good, and this is the kind of public good that we can redirect to our stakeholders and our users. I think this is a take that has actually started to proliferate rapidly across multiple applications as well as multiple ecosystems. I remember seeing something from the Solana Foundation representatives speaking of a similar thesis. So yeah, that's definitely something we're proud of. We have more coming, but I think that those announcements will be made in the future. I think what we're really obsessed over is this thesis, which is MegaETH is not a real-time blockchain. It's not even a blockchain. It's not a blockchain company. The purpose of MegaETH is to connect people with one another without an intermediary, right? We want to facilitate peer-to-peer networks. We're here to facilitate a non-custodial future, right? So anything we can do to enable that to be the case, we will build. And I think we are opinionated of our design principles. Mega Mafia is opinionated, MegaETH is opinionated, USDM is opinionated, right? We're going to continue, KPI investing is opinionated. We're going to continue to do things which we think are best for the company as well as for our users, because that's ultimately the only stakeholder that matters. We're going to continue to build the layer for Ethereum that we believe makes and realizes the Ethereum roadmap and brings ETH and basically crypto to the world.
I think that makes sense. I guess one thing with that is that you're opinionated, Mega Mafia is opinionated, and you might build up more opinionated products that you might announce later. Are you ever worried about stepping on other products' toes? Like if somebody wants, I don't know, let's say you want to launch a native lending protocol and return value to users that way, but you'll have lending, I assume, live. Well, I know you'll have an order book based one from what I remember, and I imagine you'll try and get on one of the big boys as well. Is that something that you guys are considering pretty intensely?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's, the way I look at it is hey, what are net positive? What are public goods and what are not? Lending markets is that's the private market in my eyes, right? You need to enable a rich private market to exist, or the country / the chain, it dies, right? So we have no interest in going into DeFi. We think that DeFi is very important, and we will put substantial resources behind DeFi, building this oracle of Chainlink. But ultimately, we want to find really talented founders to come and build the billion-dollar businesses on MegaETH, and we want to support them in doing so.
That makes sense. Will Mega Mafia continue afterwards? Are we going to have cohort 3, cohort 4, cohort 5?
Yeah, we need to figure out a good name for the word cohort. But yeah, that's the thesis, right? I think the beauty of Mega is because we're a chain and not a traditional VC. I think there's two ways to look at it. I think most people who might run an incubator program, they're just trying to say okay, here's a check mark of all the ideas. This is what I need. I need a lending market. So, someone needs to build me an Aave fork right now. While, I don't think that's a winning strategy per se. And I think the VC is the polar opposite, which is hey, this could be a good idea, but the chance of working is so low. And this is okay in traditional VC, right? Traditional VC, VCs aren't seeing liquidity events in a year, in 6 months.
Yeah.
So they need to bet on generational founders building crazy things, right? That can really change the world, because if it doesn't change the world, it'll become a zero in 8 years' time. We're the opposite, right? I mean, so crypto is the opposite. Crypto doesn't incentivize that. The beauty of Mega is we're able to have a bit more of that value set, which is, hey, the way Mega wins isn't by just being a really fast chain. No one cares. It's commoditized. It's not actually, but in the eyes of everyone, it's commoditized. What we need is applications which will enable and leverage this block space and show people that they can dream again, right? That they can have amazing experiences on chain that has not existed in Web2. And we're willing to take the risk of that being a zero, right? And we see this in the Mafia, right? We have a bunch of these wacky ideas that the Mafia founders are building, many of which, haven't even been announced. They're very cool. And it's very difficult to get these guys their first round of funding. Their second round of funding, very easy, right? Their third, much easier. But that first person to say, hey, I'm making a bet on this idea, I'm making a bet on you, I think that's where there's a market inefficiency, and that's where Mega has historically, shown a little bit of, I can't say success because nothing's live and it's a bit premature, but I think we definitely pride ourselves on being able to do that. Also, it's so funny, this mic is off. So it
Yeah.
says it's like red. Now it just turned on. What's going on? Insane.
Would you say that you haven't? Are we?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
very well.
Half a bit late, but yeah.
It's very no. It was working well before. Oh, I guess it was for the laptop, but it was working well as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Would you say you have a Nemesis chain? I think MegaETH to me seems like it would have Nemesis chains. Would it be Solana? Or,
Yeah,
like, is that
so
your,
it's funny. So I obviously like what you guys are implying and listeners are like, obviously Monad.
I wasn't-
So funnily enough, like I actually really respect the Monad team. I think it's really amazing work that they've done. I remember a conversation I had with like Elon and Lei in the past, right? And those are like the technical minds behind MegaETH. And they were basically thinking, if I was building an L1, EVM L1, it'd look very similar to Monad, right? So we only have a lot of respect for the team. I think in general, MegaETH does have Nemesis, and the Nemesis is every single alt L1 in the world, right? And it's like, it's not because I personally hate like Solana or Monad. I actually respect these teams unbelievably. Like I respect the product views and the product culture of Solana a lot more than I respect a lot of other stakeholders, right? Like to be completely frank, the MegaETH culture is a lot more similar to that of the Solana culture, for better or for worse. We've gotten accusations, so it is what it is. But yeah, like I just don't think any alt L1 should exist. I think fundamentally speaking, what makes sense to me, you build the most decentralized possible Ethereum at L1. That is an environment in which nation states that are in a cold war with one another could interact. No one can censor it. Like the world can live on ETH. And then you have this execution layer that can effectively handle a level of computation, level of scale that no consensus-based blockchain could, right? And that is the vision of Mega. But I respect these other chains a lot. I just don't think I don't believe in alt L1s. At least not right now.
Do you think I was going to ask while we're on the topic, is like timing of your launch here with MegaETH Mainnet, like, you guys concerned at all about? I mean, you're ending up maybe coincidentally on a similar timeline to Monad here. Is there a concern there at all, or just sort of you guys are moving at your pace?
Yeah, I think it's like not. I think it's like I want everyone to have their time in the spotlight, right? So like that was a bit frustrating. But it is what it is, right? Like these teams have been working for a long time. Like we've basically had these dates penciled in for a while because of we're definitely pushing the boundary on distribution as well as utility, but we're doing all this very above board. So it requires a lot of legal approval, a lot of regulation to do what we're doing. So when we have to pick a date and start talking to like European governmental bodies, like we can't change that date. But yeah, like I think it's a funny coincidence. I'm really excited for both teams to launch. I'm excited for my Mon airdrop, and I mean, like I don't know when Mon is launching. Maybe it doesn't end up being in the same time. Maybe they launch before us. Best of luck, honestly.
That makes sense. For what it's worth, when I mentioned the Nemesis, I was thinking of Solana because to me, MegaETH is like a very intense corner of Ethereum that like wants to be very competitive against.
Yeah.
And when I think of all when I always think of Sol.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would have done differently these past few months coming into launch? Like, I assume you guys spent a lot of time this week talking about like how the process was, or I guess like thinking about it. Was there anything you would have done differently?
Yeah, I mean, I think like, when I think the past month's been pretty good. I don't know how much I'd change in the past month. But I have some learnings from like the past year and a half, 2 years. And they like, I think life's all about trade-offs. There was a really good Palmer Lucky tweet after his crash out about like 15-year-old, 16-year-olds getting married and having kids or something. And his point was like, a lot of my colleagues in Silicon Valley, right? They don't want to get married. They don't want to get married when they're young because they don't want to commit. They want to have optionality. They want to commit to a path. But that doesn't work because if you always have optionality, you can never do something right. because you can never go all in to do something right. So, is there things I could have done better with the Mega Mafia? Definitely. But would I have done it? Like, would it look different now? Probably. I don't know if it'd be better or worse. Maybe King make more, maybe King make less. I don't have the answer. On the tech side, I would probably just like, and like another point is, I think that what was very good about the Plasma team's launch is they announced the company, they announced the blockchain, and they launched like 4 months later, which is so bullish. Mega announced like 2 years ago, and it's 2 years later, and now I'm on the podcast telling you guys like, oh, hopefully mainnet soon. It was just like Jesus Christ. So yeah, I think maybe I would have like not announced Mega as early, going back in history. But the counterfactual to that is I don't know if I'd have been able to get a bunch of brilliant founders, Mega Mafia, to come and build stuff, right? That would be live day one. So trade-offs left and right. I'd probably, if I could do anything, I'd be a nicer communicator and maybe be a bit less intense. But it
It's
is
a
what
good
it is. I don't think I can change that.
Intensity is a good thing. I think all of your team is quite intense. I think it's something that I think was missing from Ethereum for some time, and recently we've been getting like a lot more, I guess, like competitiveness, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I'll add
Do you have-
I think I agree with Bach there. Like, even to your point about Palmer Lucky's quote, like I think people like somebody who's confident, decisive, and not a person that's
Yeah.
hedging everything they say.
Yeah.
For
He's
sure.
They know
cool
you'll
guy.
execute.
Nah. Last question I have is you can't recommend people participate in the ICO. I'm cognizant of that, but do you have anything that you recommend people check out in the first few weeks, or like what they should do on MegaETH, I guess, like the first month or so?
I mean, dude, the only thing that matters is the apps. Okay, like, the why MegaETH matters. It's like, okay, it's like really fast. And I'll debate that we're not going to see a faster chain anytime soon. But I mean, maybe we can get Toggle on. Maybe he has some opinions. But yeah, so I don't think we'll have any faster chain anytime soon. But like, does that matter or not? And the only way we can figure out if that matters is if there's a new design space that's unlocked. If not, like, pardon my French, like, fuck it. So if the applications are even, they don't have to be great. People are, it's like everyone's going to be like on their alphas. But if it has a spark of inspiration and makes you think that there's something that, like, there's more to this industry, like, I would say my mission has been incomplete. And not complete, like, I did decent pre-launch. Yeah.
I think that makes sense. Danny, anything else?
No, I think that was great. Otherwise, what should
I
people?
think that,
Yeah, just for the sale, maybe just to reiterate the details, like timeline there.
Yeah, so sale opens 27th. We have a lot of demand, fortunately. So please, if you're interested in the sale, I'd recommend signing up now with your KYC details. Sale begins on the 27th. If you want to understand what is the asset that you're trying to purchase, I'd highly recommend going onto MegaETH's Twitter and learning about our tokenomics, token utility. Like, we are not building a ecosystem the way that most L2s have. And governance is really not the selling point for a Mega. So I would recommend looking into what you may be interested in purchasing.
very good. Namik, thank you so much for coming on. This was fantastic.
Yeah, I
Thanks for
mean,
coming
it's
on.
always a pleasure to talk to you guys. Turks and crypto is nice. I'm in Istanbul right now, actually. So
Yeah, I heard. I heard, but you can really hear when someone's in Istanbul because it's like noise all the time, but it's very good. I miss the
you
city.
haven't seen a cat, though, huh?
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Perfect.
See you guys around. Exciting couple months ahead. Bye.
Heck yeah! Thanks so
Bye-bye.
much for coming on. Good luck.
Okay.
Did you freeze? Oh, you did not freeze. All right.
I did not freeze. I can never figure out the end. I like Namik. I like the entire MegaETH team, but it's so funny every time they come on, they're like, "Oh, you guys hate us." I'm like, "We don't hate you. We've had you on 8 times. We in fact, I would say we like MegaETH quite a bit. Something that I need to instill into them, that we like the MegaETH team.
Yeah, they've given the community a lot of reason to like them by doing multiple sales, fluffles, what what have you. So it makes sense.
They're also quite good at like. I wasn't joking when I said like their PR is very good compared to, I would say, like they're very clear in what they want to talk about. They're very passionate in what they're building. I think overall, like they have like a nice. It's not like the bog standard, like, oh, like we're doing this to like because L2s are great, we're getting benefits from Ethereum. Like I feel like the historical L2 pitches were that, versus these guys are very much like, look, like I'm sick and tired of seeing the same like 6 apps being built, and I think we're gonna build a really fast chain, and we're gonna onboard 1 million of these like goofy apps as well as like basic primitives, and we're gonna have some fun. And also you get to buy us 3 times below 1 bill. So good luck. And I like that approach a lot. I think it speaks. It's different. It's fun. I like it. That's
I mean, definitely like it's a fresh take from the vanilla copy paste, millionth chain. So I think any project that goes a differentiated route is something to be excited about. Maybe before we totally zone out here, just going to do one last quick shout out for Aptos. With nearly 400 million in BTC assets on chain, supported by a secure, fast, and affordable MVM environment, Aptos has become the BTCFi growth chain. Aptos users can now earn yield on their Bitcoin via Echo's aBTC and OKX's xBTC without the typical bridge risks and high fees. With support from Echo, OKX, and Stacks' SBTC, Aptos is the place to go for best-in-class yield on Bitcoin. Appreciate the support. Thanks for sponsoring Aptos.
I need to do one thing before we end it off because Ryan Connor got upset with us. Guys, make sure to remember that 0x Research is affiliated with Blockworks Research. Okay? We are both Blockworks Research analysts. And if you're a listener and you enjoy us, please go and check out Blockworks Research on Twitter. Look at our reports. Look at our charts. We do fantastic work. That's my Blockworks Research shill of the day. We're not hiring anymore, but we still have a newsletter if you want to check it out. And if you enjoyed the pod, bottom right, and if you enjoyed the pod and you want to hear and you want to see some guests, you can join our Telegram group and ask me to bring on some guests. And I'm actually sourcing for ideas now. But yeah, that's it. Danny, those are my shills for the week. Anything you want to say? You already did the Aptos thing.
Yeah, I don't have any other shills. Excited about new chains though. I think having MegaETH on. We talked about it. MegaETH Mainnet. We've been waiting for some of these. He said it 2 years ago. They officially announced. So I think these have been pretty anticipated for a long time. So relatively excited to see some launches. Basically.
Very good. I'm excited. It's anytime you can trade stuff, it's very exciting. Like I feel like we had a few recently launched that didn't do particularly well. I'm excited for like interesting coins to trade again. It'll be fun. We'll have a good time.
Yeah, and even if who knows what the native tokens will do, but if it's he mentioned the Mega Mafia app kind of set of builders, it'll be a meaningfully different kind of like on-chain experience compared to what exists today. I assume. So it should be interesting either way, at least on the app front or the new assets front. Cool. Well, Bakacha, since you seem distracted, I think we can close it out there. I want to say thanks so much to the listeners for tuning in today. We will catch you all next week on Monday. I don't have any sneak peeks on guests to give away, but we will see you then. Until next time.
We'll have Smack on. We have a sneak peek guest. We'll have Smack on. Well, he promised me, so I'm hoping we'll have Smack on. But if you want to listen to Smack, famous compound venture capitalist, he's going to be on Monday. He owes me, and he also promised that he'll come on. So that's a good sneak peek.
Love that. So Smack's going to come on and Mog Bach. So definitely tune in on Monday. We will see you guys then. Otherwise, appreciate you all. Check out Blockworks Research. Check out the newsletter. Check out the Telegram. Join us in there. We are always gambling in the slot machine. We'll see you all next time.
Peace.